So in today's video, I'm working on an illustration time-lapse of what eventually became part of a series with the piece Counting Stars that I did a few weeks back. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you there. Before I really start digging into today's topic, I wanted to mention that this is another drawing that I did on the iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil. And I actually came up with the concept for this piece while I was working on my 1-week sketchbook. And I did a sketchbook tour of that if you haven't seen it. But there are a few pages where you can see the development process of this piece. And it really started with some studies of plants that were sort of vine-like. And I ended up doing a silhouette shape of a vine-inspired plant. And I wanted to further expand that idea into some thumbnails, which I did. And it took a little while for me to actually get to the point of actually starting to work on this piece. And I'm not really sure why that was. I think there were just a lot of very interesting things competing for my attention. But I'm glad that I did get around to finishing it because I'm very happy with the result. Now, until I completed this piece, I didn't realize how similar it felt to the other recent piece I've done titled Counting Stars. And it's a very similar concept with half of a face, although this is looking straight forward and Counting Stars is a profile. But the face is half off of the canvas, and there's something else going on in the rest of the piece. In the other illustration, it was stars, and in this, it's the vines. And when I set them side by side, I really felt like there was something more to it. And it really inspired me to think about working on a proper series. I haven't really done any type of series with my illustration work before, unless you're counting something like the 100-Day Project, which I also semi-recently completed. But having these two pieces side by side really made me think about it a little more in depth, which was interesting to say the least. And that sort of leads us into the main topic that I wanted to discuss today, which is that the very process of creating art can often lead to more art. And even though this idea of a series was completely unintentional, I've decided to make a conscious effort as a result of that. And that will mean that I will be working on coming up with more concepts that will further enhance the idea of this series. Personally, over the years that I've been making art and writing stories, I've found that letting one idea lead into the next idea is one of the most beneficial ways of being creative. Anyone who has been making art or writing on a consistent basis will know that often when you're in the middle of something, you'll come up with another idea. And this happens to me much more frequently with my writing, because a lot of times you want to set aside the thing that you're writing to work on this new idea. Of course, that's not always beneficial with writing, because if you keep starting new things and never finish anything, then you never finish anything. But there definitely is value in writing down those ideas so that you can come back to them later. Now, with art, I think this is a little bit of an easier idea to swallow because typically, at least with my illustration, it doesn't take quite as long to complete a piece than it does to write a book. This idea of art begetting art is a good way to avoid art block. Because personally, I find that I am most likely to become blocked if I fight what feels natural. And I briefly touched on this in the last video where I talked about how I painted the face with unnatural colors. And it was just a split-second decision that I didn't really think about for too long. I just wanted to go with the flow and let the ideas happen naturally. And if I fight that feeling of what is natural and what is subconsciously what I'm desiring to do, then the creativity sort of decides to close up. And a good way of thinking about this is that if you shut people down too many times, they're not going to want to give you suggestions. If you're constantly counteracting what someone says, they're never going to want to talk. And I think it's a similar idea with creativity. If you're constantly telling your creativity that the ideas are bad or that you don't want to do them, then your creativity is going to stop giving you ideas. So the idea of letting one idea flow into the next, as in this example of a piece of artwork joining with another idea to create a series, you can find ways to prevent that art block from happening. And of course, the thing that happens with writing also happens with illustration. Sometimes you'll be right in the middle of something and you'll get an idea for something else, and you'll feel like you need to stop what you're doing and work on that so you don't forget. Personally, I learned a long time ago that I was never going to get anything done if I did that, so I typically will write the ideas down. And with my writing, I use notebooks, just typical spiral-bound notebooks that kids will use for school, and I'll just create a table of contents and then write all of my ideas down. But with art, these ideas are normally not as intensive as a writing idea, and so I will find myself using Post-it notes quite frequently. I have a pretty large stack of used Post-it notes next to my computer because a lot of times I'll get ideas when I'm looking at other people's work as well. And I'll probably talk about the idea of writing down your concepts and ideas in a later video because it's something that I believe in very strongly and I think it deserves its own video. But I hope that the very idea of letting one idea flow into the next is useful to you, at least as useful as it is to me. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. I'm just gonna cut myself off there. I don't want to go that in depth. But I joke about having a rough time, but I really do enjoy making videos. It's something that I've really started to enjoy more and more the longer I do it, and that's very rare for me because typically the reverse happens. I've always been very fickle, so I'll do what I think is a lot of something and then I'll just slowly become less and less interested. So it's cool that it's happening in reverse. Same happened with my art, so maybe that's a sign of something.